We happened to be talking to Kevin Brady, who was our congressman, when the first airplane flew into the building in 9/11.
9/11.
So we're talking, and clearly his staff is talking to him. We're on a live interview, and then he goes, "I have to leave."
Oh,
and he hung up because they were evacuating then the
So
Capitol.
you were live.
We were live on the air with our congressman when that happened.
Howdy, you're watching the Think Brazos podcast. We host conversations with locals, politicians, and policy experts to help families thrive in Brazos County, Texas. So when you're thinking about how to make your community better, just remember, think local, think Brazos.
This is the Think Brazos podcast, and we're very thankful to have Mr. DeLucia on our podcast to speak about, hopefully, some about his history in radio, and then also, about a number of things about his remembrances in our community. So we're very thankful to have him on our podcast today, and thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Charlie. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So first off, you've been doing I believe it's 6 to 9 a.m. podcast on the radio Monday through Friday. I don't know fully the number of years, but I know overall it's 59 years in radio.
Yep.
Maybe we can get into how long it's been, but you've been doing it for a lot of years and you've recently retired. Can you tell me, what is that like, not having to wake up at 4:20 in the morning and getting to sleep in? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it freaky?
No, every once in a while I'd be able to sleep a little later on the weekends, like, maybe just 6 o'clock. But what's is so different is I have to get up in the middle of the night sometimes. As you get to be 75, you know what I'm talking about. And I'll still wake up between 4:10 and 4:25 every morning, and that's fine. But what's great is I get to go back and lay down and go back to sleep if I want to. And every morning since I've retired, I've wanted to. And so then I sleep until about 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's different. It's relaxing. It's a rewire. Because what would happen is I would get up and I had to get to work. I had to start preparing for the show. And so I do some physical things. I exercise first, and then sit down in front of a computer and go through and pick and choose the things I want, put together some information, and then I would email that to the radio station, and then I'd print it up when I got there. So I had to be active as soon as my alarm went off. Now I don't have to. So even if I were to wake up at 5 o'clock or whatever, I can still kind of languish a little bit, because it's been 60 years since I've been able to languish.
Right. So shout out to Bryan Broadcasting, the Infomaniacs program that's been on for a lot of years. Do you still wake up and listen to them?
I have not listened to the show yet.
Really?
But it's fine. Here's the thing that's important is what I would say when I was on vacation is, that's my child and I don't want to listen because that's, I take care of it. But when WTAW was able to get Frito Tucker Young, born and raised here,
who was at Candy 95,
who was on Candy 95 and won national awards here and in San Antonio and in Houston, and he came back to town and was willing to go to work for the company. That was an absolute game changer, because I knew if you listen to the show now, I am sure it is kind of different.
I still do.
Okay. But it's recognizable to what it's been.
Yeah.
And if you come back in 2 or 3 years, it may be different than you remember. But I, for whatever reason, would always volunteer the fact that I'm not on social media. Don't do Facebook. Don't do TikTok. Don't do any of those things. Well, that's what Frito does. That's part of his world, because that's what he did when he was in Houston. It's a competitive market. He had to be there and do all the things that needed to be done. And, we as broadcasters need to keep up with what's going on in the world. And if you reach new people in a new way, they'll go, oh, wait, Frito's back. I used to listen to him when he's on Candy 95. Well, Charlie, it's important that you gain you get new listeners on that end of the spectrum, because people will age out. I've talked to a couple of people who say, I've retired now, so I don't hear you like I used to. Well, because your world does change. And the first thing I have to do when I get up is we go walk our dogs for 2 miles. So we get up and I'm out the door at 6:30 and I'm not back until 7:30 usually. And then I start the world. But I know that the show is in great hands, and that Riley and Will are also doing a great job. And I actually turned it on this morning for the first time, and Jeanette's reading the news, and Jeanette has a tremendous background. We are really fortunate. Tough to find people to work in the radio business, Charlie. It's completely, it's a tough world out there. And we have some people who have been in the business for a long time. Riley is new to radio, but the other three have been in this business for a long time and have a history. And that's very unusual in a town this size.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Yeah.
So, and going back to your history, you mentioned 59 years in radio. What would you say are some of the biggest experiences that you had, maybe specifically when you were on WTAW events, things in Bryan-College Station that you recall that had the biggest impact on you, or you felt like WTAW made a big difference in this community?
Okay. There are two ways to look at that.
Okay.
One would be events that are well known, remembered.
Okay.
And others would be the things that we did as a radio station. Let's talk about noted and remembered. People will do that. Clearly, the bonfire collapse was one of the things that we'll always remember. To give you some background, at that time, I was on the show with Jay Sokol and Tom Turbyville. Okay, they, like me, had a journalism background. And so we were journalists to begin with. We got to have fun on the radio as well. But unfortunately, it's bad things that happen that you remember and that other people remember. I'm old enough to remember when John Kennedy was shot, because I was sitting in a classroom when they told me. So those things happen. But the bonfire is something that's very relatable. Jay got to work that morning as he normally does, and he would make his runs, his police runs. He'd check on things, and man,
he was a news guy.
Exactly. The phone is blowing up when he walks in, and he gets in touch with people, says, "What's going on?" He said, "The bonfire's collapsed." So he gets in touch with Tom Turbyville, and then he gets in touch with me to say, it's going to be a different day. We're not going to be doing what we normally do. And we weren't. And so
you
we
didn't do the normal joking around.
Not at all.
Like
Could not do that. And so then that was the situation where we had to go to work because people needed to know.
Right.
Tom went out to the site. Ben Downs came in. So the four of us did a lot of the work. Tom in the field far more than me, but I was in the field as well. Jay basically anchored things at the radio station, as did Ben. So the four of us go to work doing what we needed to do. And it's really hard for people today to understand by comparison, your sources of information were so much less.
Oh, yeah.
A&M had never been in a situation like that, so they go into a triage situation. One of our former news people named Sherilyn Carroll, who was working for University Information at that time, was the person on the ground who was disseminating information to everyone.
Wow.
And it was an interesting aside as Jay and Tom and I sat down to do another interview with the end of the show. And Jay had a very interesting job, and that was, this was a worldwide story.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, I was not only answering questions for news people in America, I was answering news people in other parts of the world, because all they would see is like a helicopter shot of logs scattered and apparently bodies underneath there. And people were going, what in the world were you doing that you had 35 young people crawling around on lumber? And so he kind of had to bring people culturally up to date with what this was all about.
That is interesting.
His job was really different.
Wow.
And as I go back and look at that now, and I mentioned this on the radio a while back, maybe the last anniversary or so, can you imagine if Bonfire had happened today with so much social media, with everyone having an ability to get onto a platform, and the chances of you having misinformation was about 99.7%. I mean, there would have been wrong stuff and bad stuff that would have come out. And so officials would have not only had to stem that tide, but then also get the facts out as they needed to. So any kind of we see it in something that's far less catastrophic than the bonfire now, where social media has people videoing, telling us what they think they're seeing, what they think happened. And that amount of misinformation is really unfortunate. So I remember that. Number two, we happened to be talking to Kevin Brady, who was our congressman, when the first airplane flew into the building in 9/11.
9/11, yeah.
So we're talking, and clearly his staff is talking to him. We're on a live interview, and then he goes, "I have to leave."
Oh,
and he hung up because they were evacuating. Then the Capitol.
So you were live.
We were live on the air with our congressman when that happened.
Wow.
Now that was a little bit different going forward because we needed to continue to do the show.
Right.
Okay, it's 5 days later, it's 7 days later, it's 12 days later. When do you start coming back into being the show that you have been, which is entertainment and fun?
That's a really good point.
And, it came to us at the right time. And I can't tell you how long that was. It was at least 2 weeks, but we tried to bring Bryan-College Station back into our world. And so those are the two things I remember there. So those are the things that everybody remembers.
Yeah.
Charlie, it's the other things that really impacted us as a radio station when the power would go out in a large portion of Bryan-College Station. Then there's only us. We're all in the studio. We can't find out what the information was, but there was something so heartening about the fact that our listeners would call us with factual information so that we could know this is what's going on at this part of town.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Charlie, and I live on 28th Street, and this is what's going on. This is Frank. I live on Deacon Avenue in College Station.
Cool.
I mean, so the sense of community, and we could be the portal for that.
Right.
Now today, because we text each other and there's all sorts of social media, that's not so unusual.
Right.
Back then, that was unusual.
Right.
And the thing is, people trusted us to call in and give us facts. People trusted us to continue to listen because we had facts.
Right.
And that was, that's the true responsibility of local radio, to inform people when the power's off and they've got a battery-powered radio. When is the power going to come back on? Well, we all know we can pick up our phone now and look at power outage in Bryan or College Station, know how many people are out, how many people they've dispatched, and we'll know that information. But back then, the urge to know was just as strong, but the way to find out was very, very limited. So I felt like that was a responsibility we met many, many times.
Yeah. Can we do just a real quick shout out to, is that bill in Congress for AM radio still
it is still
moving?
And let me tell you, Ben Downs has just finished his second term on the National Association of Broadcasters. If there was a Mount Rushmore for AM radio, he would be on that. Obviously, Rush Limbaugh would be on that, and maybe some other people. But people need to understand that Ben worked tirelessly in the background. I mean, Ford Motor Company was not going to put AM radios in cars anymore.
Right.
BMW was not putting AM radios in cars anymore. You would not be able to get that. And so there were radio stations, AM radio stations all over America who needed to know what happens to us.
Yes.
And Ben is very instrumental in that.
The idea is it's a PSA kind of opportunity to get the word out to the people.
And all it takes is the kind of thing that you're mentioning right here, that the power goes out in a city. Well, AM radio has been there to do that for years, and Ben has testified before legislative bodies about this, been fighting the battle for a long, long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's still moving.
It is still moving.
Good. Good. Well, anyone listening to this podcast, find out more information on this AM radio bill because, I think it's something that's really important for the public when everything else goes out.
Right. And we'll have a new congressman after November. And so get the word to their office as well.
All right. Let's talk about, our main, for this podcast, Think Brazos, our main, basically supporter and how we jump-started this podcast is through Habitat for Humanity. So we work very closely with them. BCS Habitat for Humanity has been in the community for, I should have looked this up earlier, but I believe it would be 37 years. we've built, I believe, 320 something homes. And so, yeah, we've been here for quite a while. I'd like to hear you working in the community, for the most part, for 59 years. And you grew up here.
Yeah.
I'd really like to hear if you have any anecdotes about the beginnings of Habitat for Humanity, if you remember anything
Sure.
related to the radio station or elsewhere.
First thing I think of is Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Because as a former president, he clearly had a platform. And again, now we talk about platforms being completely different. And you can, again, with social media, get anything. But finding a place in the spotlight, elevating any organization or cause is so difficult. And the fact that you saw a former president, I mean, you knew the kind of man he was, whether you believed in or agreed with him in politics or not. This was a guy who wanted to make the stack of logs taller than he found it. And he would be out there hammering, sawing, and you saw that this is a true community effort. And it's so difficult for a startup nonprofit to be able to say, hey, we're over here and this is what we do. Now, hey, kids and animals, that's easy. Kids and animals, you can find people who say, yes, I want to help kids, I want to help animals. Now, let's talk about housing. Let's talk about giving people an opportunity to live the American dream, which is to own your own home. Well, there are a lot of people who don't understand that because they've never owned a home. And for those of us who have been fortunate enough to own a home, we understand the independence that gives you, but also the responsibility. Well, Habitat didn't give you anything other than an opportunity. And I stood back and looked and said, you know what? As a homeowner, I know what sweat equity is. You're going to fix it yourself or you're going to find somebody who's going to do it. Habitat's built on sweat equity. You're a partner in this thing. You're hip deep in this just like we are. We'll find other hands to help build this property, to do this and that to the property. But if it's all said and done, it's your responsibility. And I don't know exactly how the name Habitat for Humanity came together, but I think it's great. And yeah, I don't know the name of the street that's over by the main post office, but you've got a whole street full of those.
Exactly.
And I don't know how many Habitat organizations have that.
Yeah.
And I went, man, these are people who are content. And again, I can't imagine from a logistical standpoint, you're in the midst of building a home. Well, how many others do you already want to be in a phase of, or you want to be trying to find people to apply to or be vetted to be the next family for this? Because you can't constantly, you'll get publicity, you'll get microphones and cameras at this project today, but how many others do you have put together? So that shows you that there's been so much thought in the local Bryan-College Station Habitat for Humanity to be able to say, yes, this is our project, but this is what we're doing for the future. So help us here, but help us in the future as well. That's really smart.
That's a good point. In terms of people being able to afford housing in the future, well, not in the future, but things you've seen locally, especially in College Station, there seems to have been quite a bit of pushback over the years regarding, basically homes getting built in the city.
Right.
What is your, if you want to give any feedback on it, what is your feelings about that? I don't want to mention any organization specifically, but they're just in watching the politics of both Bryan and College Station, but specifically College Station, it seems like there is quite a bit of pushback in some communities. What have you seen over the years in terms of?
So I bought a house on Francis Street, which is where the Francis Street is right where I think Chili's and Texas have. Francis Street.
So right near the
2 blocks behind City Hall. 2 blocks behind the current City Hall.
Yeah.
I bought that house. That was the first house that I bought when I came to Bryan-College Station. That was 1977.
Okay.
78. Let's say 1980. Okay, that's easy.
Okay.
So that's 46 years ago.
Yeah.
And the first month that I was there, I got a letter from a group that was a non-official homeowners organization saying, well, we think that there are students starting to move into the area, so we need to be aware of that. That was 40 years ago.
Okay.
And clearly, College Station, as a group, as a government,
Yeah.
did a very poor job of preparing, a very poor job. Now, I'm not going to say that's individuals. I'm not going to say it was groups, but this was one, not even an HOA. That was College Hills, basically. They didn't even have an HOA that just, hey, be aware. And how is this going to impact our community?
Yeah.
Then clearly A&M explodes and
Yeah.
people come in and there are absentee landowners. Well, okay, I was an absentee landowner because I left town for 4 years. I didn't sell my house.
Okay.
I rented mine to a family. I tried renting to students. It didn't work out for me, so I didn't want to do that anymore.
So you rented to a family.
Exactly.
Instead. Okay.
But by the same token, I think we know that there's an ag-type business that bought land at a fair price, above market value in some cases, and they came in and they built high-density housing. Well, College Station saw that happening. They could have done something about it 30 years ago, and they didn't. So this is where we are now. And I love to hear neighborhood integrity because nobody knows what that means. You know, this guy's idea of neighborhood and this lady's neighborhood, it's two completely different things. I think A&M has worked especially hard the last 5 or 6 years to make this not an adversarial relationship.
Yeah.
Four plus me or 3 more than 4 and me. I don't know what they call the program, but the idea there's going to be some density right here.
Yeah.
Well, now that horse has left that barn so long that it's, I think, impossible for Habitat for Humanity to be able to find somebody who's gracious enough. Hey, let me give you 4 lots that I have on ABC Street so you can build homes. That's just not going to happen. And that's not a judgment on the people who live in College Station.
Yeah.
That's just a judgment on the way things are right now.
The way things are.
And I know that the challenges that Habitat has now, and again, not only in Bryan-College Station, but that's what we're talking about here, is so difficult. I don't know how you're able to even find a situation where people can build a Habitat home in College Station.
It is very tricky, and we can definitely judge that from some of the recent projects we've tried to get through. And that's no attacking the city of College Station, anything like that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying regarding the market where we're at. But I hope that we can come up with something that would allow us to continue to have people to live at least relatively close to where they work. Because you got so many, people working at A&M that, they can't afford a huge house.
No,
they couldn't do that.
Well, and again, we used to see that in the big city where there was density. I guess now, Charlie, now we're seeing density in Bryan-College Station. And that's what happens. And then people try to move out the best they can. It's very difficult now for cities because of what Austin has done, for cities to do any kind of, they have extraterritorial jurisdictions, ETJs, but they can't grow their city limits very well. And so as a result, that makes it a problem for them. They would like to be able to have more rooftops within their city limits. But, earlier this year, the county had their first really development within the county rather than within city limits. So that tells me that they're not waiting on cities to be able to annex them. They are going to start preparing alcoves, if you will, out in the county outside the city limits. But that situation still doesn't help Habitat when it comes to finding potential property.
So moving more generally towards just the Bryan-College Station area, and you being in radio for so many years, especially maybe focusing on the last 10 years, what would you say would be the biggest issues if you were to pick out 3 or 4 of them? If we have that much time, I'm not sure if Mario thinks we do, but just a couple of them. What are some of the biggest issues that you feel like keep popping up on the radio in the last, let's just say, couple of years?
Sure. First of all, everything costs more now.
Oh, sure.
Everything costs more. And so, clearly in my history, I can remember, let's say, Brian and Villa Maria. What were we going to do with Villa Maria? We're going to go under the railroad tracks. We're going to go over the railroad track. What are we going to do? What are we going to do with the railroad tracks that run all the way down by College Station, right by a football stadium that would have 80,000 fans there? What happens if a rail car explodes and it's got gas? All the things, they were going to bury those tracks. They were going to do all sorts of things with those tracks. And of course, that goes into the railroad business, which we won't even get into.
Yeah,
but the
right.
idea that there have been so many things that both cities have put forward as far as what we're going to do as we change, as this density happens. I am deeply concerned about the amount of money that both cities need to operate.
Okay.
How the tax rates have gone high, how the property values are crazy this year. Crazy. And I know that people have tried to get some sort of answers, and I'd like to hear some answers as to what we do with the property tax situation. So, okay, everything costs more, but how many studies do we have to have? How many experts do we need to have? How much does the city need to be paying on things that are non-productive? And that's taxpayer money. And I'm talking both cities are doing this. And it really concerns me that we can have, let's have a $500 million budget. $500 million is serious money. And now, as College Station gets older, it used to be, there's the old city, that's Bryan, and then there's the new city, that's College Station. Well, now both of them have infrastructure situations. You talk about a city that decides, well, look, let's put in plastic pipe instead of metal pipe because the metal pipe corrodes. Well, then there's the plastic pipe, and they end up having connector problems, and that's not as good a quality. Then they have to go back and undo some of the things that they have done. These are just anecdotal things that pop into my head, things that the cities have done that are not necessarily smart. How big have the staffs grown for these cities?
Yeah.
And I want you to consider just in general, the staff.
So you feel like it's grown quite a bit.
It's grown quite a bit.
You've been covering it.
And the people who are the decision makers in the staff may not live here in 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm going to live here in 7 years. You're going to live here in 7 years. The voters, most of those people are going to live here in 7 years. If you make a decision that you may think is the best idea, and it doesn't work out so well 7 years later, you've gone to take a job in another city, and you have left this city saddled, if you will, with that situation. I'm not exactly sure how complete information is given to the city councils by the staffs of either city. If that is not all the information you need, then city council can't possibly make the right decision if they don't have all of the information. I just say that out there that people need to be aware. And I think when it came to the more than 4 unrelateds, College Station finally got an organization together who went out and searched, who went to college towns, other college towns, and found out information the College Station staff did not know that could be presented then to city council. They came up and they had their pitch down, Charlie. They knew exactly what to say, exactly how to say it to get more information to the city council than they'd ever gotten before. Well, I'm not going to say why it happened that way, but what it meant was those people mounted an effort and they did the right thing in the right way as quickly as they can, gave a lot of information, and then let the council make their decision based on more information than they had been getting before. That needs to happen. I don't care what the issue is. That needs to happen.
Okay. In the last maybe 2 minutes that we have left, the first thing I quickly wanted to ask you is, we've got some big elections coming up. Big thing that Think Brazos does as a podcast is interviews candidates, and we hope to do that again coming up here in September. What advice would you real quickly give to them? And then finally, long and short of it, basically, what would you summarize your career? I know that's a lot of questions.
Okay, so what do you mean from the election standpoint? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What advice who am I giving the advice to?
I'm saying the local politicians that are running.
I got you. Well, the local politicians need to listen to as many people as possible. But understand it's the people with money who make the decisions. And that's plain and honest what it is. There needs to be more connection by the citizens of Bryan with their Bryan City Council. We know the College Station people come out. Bryan City Council wants to hear from you. You need to be on boards and commissions. You need to speak before City Council. So Bryan people need to be doing that. I think College Station people do. I got to do this for 59 years. I really, really enjoyed that. Charlie, I'm not going anywhere. Well, I'm going to travel, but Jackie and I are going to stay here in Bryan-College Station. We're going to live here. I talked to Mr. Downs, and he said the 2 words I wanted to hear, and that was special projects.
Oh, great.
Which means there can be special projects where I'll be able to come back and talk to people and talk issues with people, and I want to continue to do that because, all you have to do is travel a little bit to know this is a great, great place to live. It really, really is. And I just want to say, the Habitat for Humanity works so hard with other people who want to work hard to make their dream come true. And that is an ideal nonprofit. I give stuff to Restore. I've bought things from the Restore store. What you guys do is fabulous. It really, really is.
Well, Scott, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast today, and for your shout out to Habitat for Humanity and all the work that you've done over the 59 years that you've been a part of this radio business. And yeah, we really appreciate it. And we hope you stay connected, not just, like you said, with the radio business, but also with Habitat for Humanity. So we'd love to see you out at a build sometime. So
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're very welcome.
We appreciate it.
The Think Brazos podcast is brought to you by Bryan-College Station Habitat for Humanity. Our mission is a community where everyone can afford a home they're proud of. Habitat is a 501c3 charitable organization, so we do not make political endorsements. Thanks for listening, and just remember, think local, think Brazos.